The Indigo Disc, the latest DLC to be added to Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. In it, I'll be enrolling myself in the illustrious Blueberry Academy as an exchange student. I didn't really like the Teal Mask DLC. Its poor storyline as well as a number of other factors had left a sour taste in my mouth, so I was hoping this DLC would give me a much better experience. I had buried my head deep in the Palo Sand in order to avoid any spoilers and go into this completely blind. Grab some snacks and make yourselves comfortable as I recount the colorful cast of characters I had met, the striking trials I had to overcome, and the polychromatic parade of Pokemon I acquired as I ventured forth to become a BB League champion and unearth the hidden treasure of Areazero. It all began with an abrupt roto phone call that I received from dear old Director Clavel. He told me I was being presented with the chance of a lifetime. His friend, who was the director of Blueberry Academy, wanted to host me as an exchange student at his school. Clavel confessed he found it odd I was specified by name, but told me to swing by his office whenever I was ready to hear the offer out. However, not 5 seconds after walking through the doors of Blueberry Academy, I was accosted by this man who claimed to know who I was and wanted to set off with us immediately. Luckily, Director Clavel swooped in, apologizing for the confusion, and formally introduced me to Director Cyrano, the head of Blueberry Academy and the one interested in hosting me as an exchange student. Whilst on that subject, Clavel questions why Cyrano specifically chose me to take part in his exchange program, and after momentarily losing his train of thought, Cyrano responds, stating that I had met some of his students while on my field trip to Kitakami, and as it turns out, Carmine had put in a good word for us. Director Clavel regrets not being able to accompany us, but makes certain Cyrano intends to keep a careful eye, who just jauntily jokes that nothing bad would ever happen to me. Clavel comments how he hopes this will lead to an experience I could truly treasure, before giving me his best wishes as Director Cyrano and I depart for Blueberry Academy. When we arrived at our destination, Director Cyrano cordially welcomed us to his acclaimed Blueberry Academy. He mentions we're only at the school's entrance and that the rest is submerged underwater. Cyrano then inclined to ask us if we had taken notice of just how berry blue his school truly was. He tried to think of something else to tell me, but when he couldn't, Cyrano inquired if I was currently curious about anything. I take the opportunity to ask why his school was stationed under the sea, with my honest query seeming to stun the dazed director. Before Cyrano could quench my curiosity, someone strolls on in, seamlessly stating the answer for him. She introduces herself as Lacey, one of the school's second-year students, and Director Cyrano gives the ingenious idea that she should show me around the premises since she's so abreast about the academy. Lacey expresses her shock by his sudden suggestion before apologizing to me for her abrupt outburst, stating how Director Cyrano constantly pushes his obligations onto her, which she lets him know is just not right. However, Lacey then uses the possibility of getting to know me before any of the other students can, and decides to ultimately undertake the task. She escorts me on up to the Academy's main entrance before stating how much of an enlarged emphasis this school places on battling Pokemon, going so far as to have an entire battle fort installed at the very entrance, which any student is free to use at their leisure. Director Cyrano decides that Lacey and I should have a Pokemon battle, as he's quite curious to see just what I'm capable of. He goes on to boast about how Lacey's an Elite 4 member of their Elite Club, and that her father is one of Univa's most esteemed gym leaders. Lacey chews Director Serrano out for spreading around her personal information, telling him it's just not right. However, the director just dismisses himself, telling us to give him a good old show. Lacey apologizes, stating Serrano won't budge before bearing witness to our friendly fracas, which she admits she's pretty psyched about having, letting us know that the tendency here at Blueberry Academy are double battles, that ours will hopefully let us get to know each other just a little bit better. We take our positions on the Academy Battle Court, and as the battle begins, Lacey's intro animation makes quick detail of her bejeweled hairpin. She starts the battle off with her plus-1 mining, which made me ponder as to who her mother may possibly be. I don't dwell on the thought too long, as I quickly terrestrialize my shiny Shinypokemon to take out Plusle, as my shiny Areazero cascade crosses out Minin. Lacey declares her plus-minus strategy a bust, before bringing out her Ace Excadrill, although confirming her connection to Clay. Excadrill effortlessly eliminates Shinypokemon, so I send in my Kitakami Ace newbie, the Shiny Informate, to lay the finishing blow on Lacey's AC, awarding me my first Blueberry Battle victory. Lacey remarks on our spectacular skills as Director Serrano congratulates us on our splendid Blueberry-style battle. Speaking of style, Director Serrano remembers to hand us off one of his academy's uniforms. I change into the new school swag, which Lacey says suits me beautifully. Director Serrano also comments on my display of flame and fashion before gifting me the Indigo style card, unlocking a number of new hair and clothing options back in Paldea. Now that we look like an official occupant of Blueberry Academy, Lacey decides it's high time we enter the school proper, directing me towards the front gates which led to the world-renowned terrarium. I swiftly swapped my apparel around, adding a splash of purple to represent my true school colors, before making my way into the Academy's acclaimed terrarium, where my adventure will truly begin. Lacey proudly presents the Academy's premier attraction, the terrarium, as Director Serrano chimes in, saying he was the sole designer. Lacey lets us know the terrarium is divided into 4 distinct biomes, those being the southern savanna biome, the cozy coastal biome out to the west, the craggy canyon biome located in the east, and the Arctic polar biome all the way up north. She states that thanks to the air and humidity levels of each biome, a beautiful diversity of Pokemon are able to inhabit them, before asking us which habitat had piqued our interest. I had overheard a conversation topside concerning a certain Cerulean cephalopod, so I answered with the coastal biome, which just so happened to be her preferred pick too, commenting on its calm and breezy atmosphere. Lacey informed us if our Pokemon ever needed healing, we were free to use one of the terrarium's self-serving healing machines, before Director Serrano directed my attention to the terrarium's crowning centerpiece, the terrarium core, packed with fantastical fluids procured from Paldea, which allows Pokemon within the terrarium the ability to terrestrialize. Lacey states to not know what materials made the core, commenting the information has never been shared publicly. Serrano seems happy to satiate Lacey's curiosity, but when he fails to conjure the appropriate answer, he claims to have plumb forgotten, stating it was Miss Briar who put the whole thing together herself. We're then interrupted by an announcement saying a practical battle class would be commencing shortly in the coastal biome, and any student interested in attending should head there immediately. Lacey comments on the fortunate coincidence and asked if we would be participating in our first new school seminar, being enigmatically enthused with seeing our academic affection. She then proceeded to download the Terraria map onto my Rodon phone before Director Serrano decides to split, seeing as he's no longer needed. Lacey tries to interject as Director Serrano tells me my dorm room had been fully furnished and I was free to use it at my leisure. He then asked me to take out my Rodon phone so we could install the Blueberry Academy Pokédex, inviting me to go sauce-buck wild and catch as many Pokemon as I please. Director Cyrano casually departed, telling me to live my life here at the Academy to its fullest, as Lacey let out a sullen sigh, stating we would always be able to count on her whenever needed, before telling us it was about time we both headed over to the class and that she would be awaiting my arrival in the coastal biome. She swiftly sprints to the coastal class in progress, leaving me free to finally traverse the terrarium's bountiful biomes. I plan to build an entirely new team for this DLC, so I didn't steamroll the storyline and possibly ruin my experience. I had done this during my Kitakami playthrough, and it was the only enjoyable thing that turning provided. So I snaked my way to the savannah biome, spotting a few potential party members along my path towards the coastal biome's serene seashore. None of them managed to capture my captivation, however that all changed once I entered the coastal biome's confines, where I spotted a Pokemon presenting a unique opportunity. That Pokemon was none other than Milcery, who was spawning in outbreaks all across the terrarium as part of an event commemorating the launch of this DLC. Milcery was a Pokemon with a sweet little gimmick, being able to evolve into a total of 63 different forms of alchemy based on the type of sweet you give them, the direction you're spinning around, the amount of time you spun, and the time of day you performed your particular pirouette. I was going to be hunting my Viscous Viscountess at full odds, meaning I wasn't going to be using the shiny charm, nor was I going to be using any shiny boosting sandwiches. Not that I would need them, as the shiny rates from these outbreaks were greatly increased. So much so that after only 20 minutes of hunting, I would find my pudding princess. Alrighty, let's take a look at you. Are you the shiny? Nope. No, you don't have those black soulless eyes. You, however, yep, I can tell. You're the one. Shiny Milcery. Alright. That only took like, what, 20 minutes? Can't believe I actually found it that fast. My god. Their odds must be insanely boosted. Alright, gonna throw a luxury ball at it. Love the luxury ball, because it gives shinies an extra set of sparkles when they come out. And there we have it. Shiny Milcery caught. This guy chop up his snappy bit of experience here. And there it is. Shiny Milcery. First one registered to the Dex. Although I was originally content with catching the singular confectionery, the speed at which I found my saccharine senora swiftly altered my decision, because like the sweet saying goes, you can never have just one. And paired with Pokemon's age-old adage, gotta catch 'em all, the stage had been set for the events to come. So I set forth to find these fondant femmes over the course of 2 days, across both the coastal and polar biomes, till I finally caught all 63 of the Madeline Madames necessary to evolve and fill out Alchemy's shiny living dex. While looking through my buttered up babes, I was delighted to discover that 4 of them each possessed the uncommon mark, before scouting out the cream of the crop who had both a fantastic nature and pretty good IVs to boot. I decided to give my Milcery the berry sweet, seeing the evolution is quite fitting to begin my Blueberry Academy adventures with. I then performed a short spin during the daytime and watched with bated breath as my Berry Baroness began evolving into the very sweet Vanilla Cream Alchemy. I decided to name my Immaculately Claire Primera, but for as enthused as I was for catching my first party member, I had not yet forgotten why I originally came here to the coastal biome, where a magenta man of war was yet waiting for me within the waters. So I whipped myself up a great noodle sandwich to acquire a boon to my poison encounter rate, and watched as a pool of both tentacool and cruel appeared along the coastline. I hopped on my Miraidon and began making my way through the laggy Laguna. Minutes soon turned into hours, and eventually night would set IRL as I resigned myself to continue this hunt the next day, when I would resume my trek through these turbulent tides, completely unaware of the absolute absurdity that had yet to come. Are you shiny? No, you're not. Hello, Brawler. Are you shiny? No, you're not. I'll keep looking. I think I found it here. Let me see. Shiny tentacle. Finally. finally, it's been like 14 hours. I swiftly sent in Reserve's Michael A to use hypnosis and send this dapper jellyfish off to Dreamland before hurling a luxury ball and securing this shiny Shiny. 1, 2, 3, click! There we have it! Shiny Tentacool caught! Woo! This is why I do full odds hunts. Just love the feeling so much. And there we have it. First one registered to the Dex. A short aside about Tentacool, it was my first ever random shiny encounter. I claimed it nearly 10 years ago, and reclaiming one now still filled me with joy. But as I was cruising along the coastline, reminiscing on those decade-long memories, and wearing off the rest of my sandwich's encounter power, I was not prepared for what I would find just around the corner. No way! No way! On the same sandwich? 2 shinies on the same sandwich? Shiny Tentacool! No way! After giving it the good old false swipe 99 combo, I let loose my luxury ball, catching the unexpected Aurelia. Critical catch, baby! There we go! Shiny Tentacool caught! Alright! Let's see that Dex entry. Come on, show it to me. First one registered. Can't believe I actually got 2 shinies off the same sandwich. For as happy as I was for catching these corrosive Nideria, I was now left having to choose which one would become my compatriot in many arms. I eventually settled on choosing Tentacool, seeing as not only was it the Pokemon I originally intended to catch here, but it also had the superior nature as well as the uncommon mark, which I took as a sign that this was meant to be. I gussied up his subpar moveset before dubbing him Thurston and sending him out to train on a nearby Milcery outbreak, until he had gained enough experience points to level up, and I could watch him evolve into Tentacruel. There we go. Thurston's evolving. And there we go. Shiny Tentacruel. I decided to continue the story by attending the Coastal Battle class, which ended up being a lecture based on how habitats have an effect on Pokemon's regional forms, before being assigned to set out and acquire an Alolan variant. I had no interest in adding any Alolan aberrant to my team, so I just ended up catching an Alolan Muck, giving it an apt nickname, and then presented it to the teacher to tell him how I truly felt about his assignment. The teacher dismissed the class shortly thereafter, but before departing herself for some official clubroom activities, Lacey quickly clued me into this school's concept of extracurricular activities, known as Blueberry Quests, or BBQs for short, which were small tasks we could perform whilst out and about in the terrarium, such as engaging in auto battles or catching specific Pokemon that would net us some BP, or Blueberry points, which were this school's specific form of currency. Shortly after Lacey dashes off, I receive a phone call from my Kitakami acquaintance Carmine, who says it's been far too long since last we've seen each other, and decides to set up a meetup point at the terrarium's central plaza. Upon my arrival at the destination, I overhear Carmine talking about some rather personal issues with a totally inconspicuous student, who promptly points out my presence. Carmine greets us, asking if I've missed her at all, and I decide to give her my honest answer, which greatly aggravated her. Carmine's mystery acquaintance decides it's time to take her leave, as Carmine and I continue catching up. Carmine comments how I haven't changed at all since the last time we met. Meanwhile, she's been out with Miss Briar, visiting all the different regions of the world, stating those trips significantly increased the strength of her team. She asked if I was curious to see her Pokemon's newfound power in action, before officially declaring me to a battle in the Central Plaza's battle court. Carmine leads with a staple Mightyena and newcomer Toucanon as I send in Thurston and Primera. I'm treated to a nice callback to our first battle in Kitakami, wherein Carmine confidently declares that I'm gonna be eating terrarium dirt. Unfortunately for Carmine, all it takes is a quick combination of Primera's dazzling gleam and Thurston's surf to swiftly wash away both her lead Pokemon. Carmine then sends out her other team newcomer Scrafty before calling out and terastallizing her ace companion Sinistra. Sinistra's terastallization doesn't do dilly darn anything, however, as I slam it with Thurston's Sludge Bomb and pepper it with Primera's dazzling gleam, only barely missing the KO but taking out the Scrafty in the process. However, on the following turn, my Primera polishes off the Porcelain Poltergeist with a picturesque sidekick, allowing me to proclaim my preeminence over Carmine. Carmine languishes about how we never hold back in battles before inquiring if we had run into Kieran as of late. A loud dispute disrupts our conversation as Carmine claims to recognize the aggressor's voice. We run over to find that the aggressor is none other than her little brother Kieran, who's sporting some brand new style along with a brand new attitude. We decide to eavesdrop on their conversation as the other student informs Kieran that his home life has been really hectic as of late, with Kieran coldly commenting that the student must be okay with remaining a weakling for the rest of his life. It would seem Kieran's adopted a strength is absolute mentality since we last crossed paths, as he threatens to throw the student out of his club for not taking his training seriously. Carmine comments that Kieran's been this way ever since they both got back from their field trip to Kitakami, before an onlooker chimes in, completely derailing our conversation. He waltzes his way on over to us, and Carmine begrudgingly introduces him as Drayton. She goes on to state how Drayton used to be the strongest trainer here at Blueberry Academy before being bested by someone else. Drayton thanks Carmine for her beautiful introduction before completely disregarding her introduction of me and asking what my affiliation with Kieran was. After telling Drayton Kieran is a good old pal of mine, it's apparently enough to appease his interest in the matter. He then asks completely out of left field if I would like to be shown to his club room. Carmine questions why that would be necessary, and Drayton responds stating I had yet to join any of the Academy's clubs since my arrival, adding how his club would absolutely love to acquire such an interesting new member, going so far as to even call dibs on my application. Drayton decides to lead the way on over to the club room, and we make it there in no time at all, where he proudly presents the League Club's face of operations. A place where we can donate the BP we earned doing Blueberry quests to provide helpful boons and bonuses from the other school clubs, such as an item printer that can take Poke materials and convert them into random items through a completely convoluted gacha-like mechanic reminiscent of the Cramomatic from Pokemon Sword and Shield's DLC, and boost to the biodiversity of the 4 terrarium biomes, which would allow starter Pokemon to begin roaming the overworld. Drayton declares us official trial basis League Club members before handing us the catching charm as a gift from one oh-so-charming person to another. He goes on to explain that Blueberry Academy has its own exclusive league, and that the League Club's purpose is to have a good old rowdy time, battling and training with one another in an attempt to climb the ranks. Carmine comments that trainers at the top of the BB League are known as the BB Elite Four, and that Drayton, as well as the girl I saw her with earlier, are both members. Drayton concludes the conversation by stating if we wish to be non-trial basis members, to join him on a cafeteria date later before breaking off to grab himself a bite to eat. Finding everything to be highly suspicious, Carmine walks me on over to my dorm room so we can have a conversation in private. She expresses her worries about Drayton and Kieran, stating how her brother has been really scaring her as of late, explaining how Kieran has completely changed his demeanor ever since he's returned from their field trip to Kitakami, rigorously training non-stop, day and night, which made him strong enough to dethrone Drayton as the strongest student at the academy and assert himself as the League Club president and BB League champion. Carmine continues, stating that with Kieran so busy they barely speak anymore, commenting once again about how even though Kieran's changed, I've remained firmly consistent, giving me her gratitude for remaining Kieran's friend and asking that I keep sticking with him to the bitter end. In addition to her woes concerning Kieran, Carmine also gives us an apt warning about Drayton, stating he's a knucklehead slacker who's always up to something. Speaking of Drayton, I decided to delay our dinner date in order to go out and farm some Blueberry quests. so I could drastically increase the amount of BP I had and cash in on all the rewards the Academy's clubs had to offer. Doing these blueberry quests put me into a pseudo-trance-like state, and soon enough I was getting a call from Director Cyrano telling me that he was going to be offering me more advanced blueberry quests. I used the BP I acquired over my 2-day detour in order to upgrade the item printer to its current max capabilities and unlock the Pokeball lottery function, which had a chance to go off every subsequent use of the item printer and grant me the possibility to procure one of the unique Pokeballs usually only found in the Porto Marinida auctions. I then used the rest of my BBQ acquisitions in order to boost the biodiversity of all 4 of the terrarium's biomes. Whilst I was on my BBQ binge, I stumbled across my next team member. Alright, that should be enough for another 3000 BP, and that's a shiny Tyro! What the heck? Oh my gosh, shiny Tyro! He wasn't even trying to find a shiny. Alright, time for you to go nighty-night type. Can't believe I actually found this random encounter shiny. This is why I don't use Shiny Boost or Shiny Charm. It makes stuff like this all the more exciting. And there's the luxury ball. Critical catch, baby. There we go. Shiny Tyro caught. It didn't take long for me to decide who I would evolve this tiny tyke into, as I began feeding him stat boosting items until his attack and defense were both at the same value, before then giving him a single rare candy, leveling him up with the prerequisites in which to evolve into a hardy Hitmontop. Here we go, Shiny Tyroke is evolving. Gonna be evolving to a Hitmontop. Honestly, my favorite of the Hitmon evolutions. He looks so cool, and I love how his shiny stands out so much from the other 2. I nicknamed him Spike Lee, and took his arrival as a sign that he stopped fapping about and continue on with the main story. So I made my way on over to the Academy cafeteria to commence my dinner date with Drayton. He greets me on my arrival and tells me to pull up a seat right on next to him. Drayton goes on to say how I seem to have some pretty strong Pokemon, and that with a team like mine I actually have a shot at becoming the BB League champion, which would be a completely wacky concept. After stating this though, Drayton notices the convenient arrival of Kieran along with the rest of the Elite Four, all of whom I had already been acquainted with, save for the last member who was equipped with a frying pan and sporting some chefly attire. Kieran cuts right to the chase, asking Drayton why he's decided to call him here, and it would appear that through Drayton's dastardly design, he had manipulated this entire situation in order to set up the convoluted circumstances for which Kieran and I's reunion could occur. Kieran seemed to be quite puzzled by my presence, as apparently he'd been left completely out of the loop as to my arrival here at Blueberry Academy. Drayton declares how he and I are already tight, and mentions how he was just about to ask me to join the BB League. The Mystery Elite Four member thinks it's a fire idea, however both Lacey and Carmine's friends seem to take issue with the matter. Drayton decides to put the subject to a vote, preemptively casting his ballot in favor of my enrollment. Lacey denies my entry, being a huge stickler for the rules, leading to mystery member Crispin, who also votes in favor, seeing how I am an Academy attendee. He goes on to ask not-so-mystery member Amaris for her say, and she too declines my enrollment, largely in part with Lacey's reasoning. With the poll now split, the mighty BB League champion Kieran now holds the defining vote, ultimately allowing me to join the BB League drunk off his own ego and absolutely confident that he would never lose to anyone. He then takes his leave as a stunted Lacey lashes out at Drayton for his rampant manipulation, telling him that it's just not right, before her and the rest of the Elite Four make their way to quickly catch up to their mighty Blueberry League champion. Drayton apologizes for entangling me into his devilish devices, but optimistically states how he hopes this will help Kieran and I mend our tattered friendship, telling me he'll be right behind me every step of the way before informing me to head on over to the Academy's entrance so I can get officially registered for the BB League at the reception desk. However, the receptionist bars my registry due to a fluke technicality. Drayton attempts to smooth the situation over by telling the receptionist that he and the Elite Four had already hashed things out, yet she remains too skeptical and refuses to take Drayton's word at face value. Luckily, Kieran stops on by with Carmine in tow to back up Drayton's statement and personally endorses my enrollment into the BB League. The receptionist began working on my registration as per the champion's command, with Drayton noting his unexpected chivalry. Kieran comments how he's aware Drayton's manipulating the situation, but brushes it off, declaring that he doesn't care so long as he gets to have one more shot at battling me. Kieran tells me not to go losing to any chumps before facing him, and after issuing my boastful retort, he gives me the creepiest face I have ever seen in a mainline Pokemon game. He then leaves, telling me he looks forward to watching me climb the ranks, after which Carmine begins digging into Drayton for roping me into the League Club's woes, ultimately capitulating the matter before wishing me luck in my future endeavors and asking me to keep an eye on her brother for her. Just after Carmine solemnly sauntered off, the receptionist announces that my registration into the BB League had finally been completed. She tells me I'd usually start off climbing the ranks by battling other students around the academy, but due to my many glowing recommendations, I could skip straight to challenging the Elite Four at their respective bases, provided I managed to complete their tryouts first. The receptionist proceeded to mark each of the Elite Four's base locations on my Rotom phone, before informing me that I would need BP in order to issue each member a challenge, and once they had all been defeated, I would earn the right to face their champion. Drayton tells me that I'm free to face the Elite Four in whatever order I so desire, mentioning having to pass the merry little trials they whipped up beforehand before leisurely leaving so I could ponder as to which member of the Elite Four I would face first. It didn't take too long for me to designate who my priority target would be, seeing as she was the first to greet my arrival at the academy and the first to deny my entry into the BB League. I found it only fitting that Lacey would be the first Elite Four member to eat terrarium dirt. If Lacey's hair color was anything to go by, then she would most likely be using fairy types. And although I had a type advantage with Thurston, I wanted to catch another Pokemon for additional security, and I decided that Pokemon would be the ever-durable Duraludon. I had unfortunately been spoiled to the fact this returning dragon had been given a new evolution, but was luckily able to avoid seeing what the transformed Titan looked like. So I made myself a sandwich that would boost my dragon encounter rate, and began tracking up and down the polar volume snowy mountainside on the hunt for this armored aberrant, though I wasn't prepared for just how swift this search would be.
Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh! Shiny Duraludon? On my first sandwich? On my first sandwich! No way! No way! Shiny Duraludon. Wait, there it is. There it is. Let me see sparkles, baby. Shiny Duraludon! On my first sandwich! Oh my god! Just gotta jump in my PC box here for a hot second so I can grab out my Glade. I cannot believe I got Shiny Duraludon on my first sandwich. That is exactly why I go full odds hunting, baby. You cannot match this level of excitement. Oh my gosh. Look at them. Look at them stampeding together. Oh, that is so cool. Okay, come on here. Come over here. Let's see that animation one more time. Shiny Duraludon. Alright, managed to tick her HP down and send her to sleep with hypnosis. Gonna go ahead and hurl my luxury ball, and let's see if we've caught this thing. 1, 2, 3, click! Boom, baby! Boom! Shiny Duraludon caught! Oh, right! Oh, I still cannot believe I found this thing on my first sandwich. And there we are, first one registered to the Dex. I delved into my sandwich's recipe catalog as well as my key items pocket in order to show y'all my acquisition's legitimacy, and after taking a few minutes to continue popping off at my ludicrous fortune, I took myself down to the shores of the coastal biome to train my newfound party member against the still present Nosari outbreaks until he was on par with the rest of my party, when I would then use Duraludon's new evolution item, the Metal Alloy, and watched with anticipation as I witnessed the brand new evolution. Alright, here we go. Duraludon is evolving. Oh, let's see what she's gonna turn into. I hope it looks cool. I hope it looks cool. Oh, there it is. Oh, that looks so awesome. Congratulations, your Duraludon evolved into Archaludon? Archaludon? Is that how you pronounce it? First one registered to the Dex, Archaludon, the Alloy Pokemon. Let me take you out of your luxury ball so I can get a better look at ya. Alright, Archaludon, come on now. Just stand right there for a minute, please. I would much appreciate that. Alright, let's see what you got going on here. Whoa. Whoa, what the heck?
Oh, you're like a mini stapler remover or something. Now armed with my tempered titan, I was ready for whatever Lacey could lash out. After I paid my prerequisite BP fee to the base receptionist, Lacey ushered me on over to her cozy coastal trial site, where she started things off by thanking me for coming out to challenge her and apologizing for protesting my BB League enrollment. She then proceeds to babble on about club group bylaws before stating the real reason she didn't want us to join was so we wouldn't get roped into any of the league club's drama. With all that out of the way, Lacey officially announces the start of my trial, which she declares is a Pokemon quiz, and to pass her trial I would have to answer all 5 questions correctly. The quiz ranged from simple Poke trivia, such as identifying where Pikachu stores its electricity, to harder queries like pointing out the antique Sinistry, and rounding off with a surprise question where Lacey asked which part of Granville she liked using as a pillow. Luckily, I was able to make one of the trainers outside of Lacey's face spill the beans prior to my trial, and I was able to answer correctly, allowing me to ace Lacey's trivial trial. With my trial passed, Lacey led me back to her base, telling me I had earned the right to challenge her. We then take our positions on the Coastal Battle Court, where Lacey gives me her formal introduction as a member of the League Club's Elite Four, going on to state how she never expected a challenge coming from a cross-school student like myself, but refuses to let her personal feelings deter her in our battle, ultimately wishing me to walk away with an understanding of the depths of strength that lie in cuteness. Lacey leads with her pillow squad of Whimsicott Granville as I send out my tag team pair of Thurston and Archelodon. Now I thought I was being a very clever boy by pairing these two together to deal with Lacey's fairies, with my Gigabrain plan being to spam stab sludge wave with Thurston, which wouldn't affect Archelodon, who would then pick off any survivors with her stab flash cannon. However, my Gigabrain strategy ultimately fell through when Lacey's Primarina survived the onslaught of both Thurston's critical hit Sludge Wave along with Archelodon's Flash Cannon, and retaliated with a mighty Wind Blast that ended up taking my Tempered Titan to rest. With Archelodon down, I was unable to use Thurston's Sludge Wave without taking the rest of my team out, and to make matters worse, Lacey proceeded to send out her Slowbro, who I now didn't have a counter to. I avenged Archelodon by scoring yet another critical hit against Primera the following turn, but as if things weren't harrowing enough, Lacey then sent out her own alchemy to boost both of her Slowbro's attack stats with its signature move, Decorate. Now armed with her freshly battered up Slowbro, Lacey lets loose a staff-boosted Psychic on Thurston, who hangs on thanks to BS Affection mechanics, but falls the following turn due to Alchemy's Giga Drain. With Thurston now out, I not only lost my type advantage against Lacey, but I'm also down to my final 2 Pokemon. I send in the only other Pokemon I have in reserve, Spike Lee, to buy me another turn by using Fake Out on Lacey's Slowbro, as Primera takes out the clearly inferior Confectionery with Dazzling Gleam. Now back into a corner herself, Lacey sends in her ace Pokemon Excadrill, and calls upon the power of cuteness to awaken its great Terrascal heart. Following Lacey's lead, I call upon the power of Spite to awaken my Primera's very own great Terrascal heart, and barely managed to avoid being bodied by Excadrill's Iron Head, if not for once again being saved by BS Affection mechanics. This lovely stint of luck allowed Spike Lee and Primera to polish off Lacey's Slowbro, giving me a miraculous 2v1 advantage against her adorable ace. All seems lost, however, as Lacey calls upon her champion Excadrill to use its destructive power, yet once again, for the 3rd time in this battle, BS Affection mechanics saved the day, and I land Lacey's last ally with Spike Lee and Primera, literally winning the battle with the lovely and completely broken power of friendship. After my ill-won victory, Lacey and I walked to the center of the battle court, where she asked if I too had witnessed our darling Pokemon's cutesy fracas, and I take my chance to mess around with her by commenting on her own cuteness, which led to a hilariously adorable response. Lacey decides all this cuteness needs to be captured, so she wrangles up all her trusty trial allies, and we take a picture to commemorate my first Elite Four victory. After taking a minute to marvel at the photo's picturesque cuteness, Lacey hands me the TM for alluring voice as a badge of proof of my ample adorability, before commenting on how strong I am when I'm battling seriously, and wondering just how far that strength will take me against this academy's very finest, stating she'll be keeping a keen eye on my progress before walking away into the terrarium's simulated night. Not too long after Lacey's left, Drayton drops on by, spouting a very familiar phrase, and congratulates me for conquering my first Elite Four member. He then goes on to state how Lacey's affinity for cuteness is what allows her to train her adorable entourage with so much passion, and is confident that I treat my own Pokemon with the same lovely level of enthusiasm. Drayton declares that I just may be the one who can help turn things around for the League Club, before wishing me luck in my endeavors to face the Academy's remaining Elite Three and casually dipping on out. My battle with Lacey had come way too close for comfort, and if it hadn't been for BS affection mechanics, I would have been toast. I knew if I didn't want a repeat of what occurred here, I not only needed to get my act together, but also add a new party member to bolster my team's type coverage. So I scoured the biomes in search of such a sublime specimen, and was eventually enticed by an encounter with one of the terrarium's biome boomers, Litten. Litten would be a fantastic feature to my party. Once fully evolved into Incineroar, it would be a physical juggernaut, and paired with its hidden ability Intimidate, both it and Spike Lee could shut down any physical threats that come my way. So I chowed down on a hefty fire encounter boosting sandwich, and began trekking through the canyon biome's open field. My hunt would take me from the late hours of dusk until the morrow's break of day, when I finally found this fetching feline. Oh, there it is! There it is! Shiny Litten, baby! Oh, I could spot that thing from a mile away. Let me go ahead and drop down a safety save right here. And let me get a better look at you up close. Hold on. Let me bring out my Lordon phone so I can really see my man. Alright, Shiny Litten. Probably one of my favorite shiny starters. It just looks so good in white. Alright, that's enough of me ducking. Let's go ahead and encounter this thing. And Shiny Litten, there we are. Alright, come out reserves. It's time to lower another Shiny's HP and send them off to sleep. Or not, scratch that, this thing goes Flare Blitz. Alright, finally managed to put this crazy kitty to sleep. Gonna go ahead and puff my luxury ball and hope for the best. And critical capture, baby, there we are. Shiny Litten caught. Woo! Definitely a bit more stressful than that had to be, thanks to expanding Flare Blitz. But there we are, first one registered. With my catching cat now in tow, I sent him out to start training on the local deerling population. And once they had all been reduced to smolders, Litten evolved into Torracat, who would go on to prey on some much larger game until finally evolving into the Combat Calico Incineroar. I continued to train my Truckee and Tabby up to the level of the rest of my team, when I would then give him the name Joe the Kitsu as a tribute to my late stepfather. I then went on to change Joe's ability, as well as make some much needed improvements to my team's natures and movesets. With my team adequately adjusted to fit their new roles, I boldly ran towards my next challenge, Amaris, who was also guilty of denying my entry into the BB League. After arriving at Amaris' base and paying my BP fee, Amaris aided me on over to the location of her trial site, where she promptly introduced her challenge as a flying time trial, where I would have to soar through the terrarium's enclosed skies and reach the designated goal within the allotted time limit. Amaris then asked if I could kindly bring out whichever Pokemon I would be completing my trial with, and proceeded to administer some of the terrarium's dankest herbs to Miraidon, greatly empowering him and granting him the capability of flight throughout the duration of the trial. My first flight starts off a bit shaky as I try to wrestle with the wonky controls, but luckily I'm able to recover accordingly after a while, allowing me to ace Amaris' trial with flying colors. Amaris and I reconvene at her base's battle court, where she submits her concerns regarding Kieran, asking us what we affiliated the troubled type to be. She mulls over my response to consider him my rival, before positing that for her, Kieran is her dear friend Carmine's younger brother, stating she finds his recent change in character deeply concerning. Amaris declares her desire to help Kieran, and that she can't afford to lose if she's to make that desire a reality. Amars leads with the covered combination of Starmie and the Lowland Dugtrio as I take the initiative with Spike Lee and Joe the Kidsu, who waste no time and immediately deliver a devastating double Intimidate drop against Amars' contrary combatants. Unfortunately for Amars, I also had no desire to lose this battle. I had learned my lesson facing Lacey and came into this battle with a far more confident strategy in mind. However, I had to alter my plans after being blindsided by the Lowland Dugtrio's surprise Focus Sash, as Amars aptly dispatched both of my teams the following turn. Thankfully, this allowed me to freely switch in a pivotal pair of Primarina and Thurston, and I could begin to put my meticulous masterpiece in motion. Thurston's superb speed allowed me to get a swift slip-turn KO against the Lowland Dugtrio, as I then sent in my Archelodon, now named Asuka, who acquired a delightful death rate boost from my patiently awaiting Primarina. Asuka's sweet stat surge allowed her to easily exterminate Empoleon before shattering the speedy Seathor out of revenge for pitilessly pummeling Primarina the prior turn. Unbeknownst to Amars, it would be that action which would end up leading to her demise, as even though she would go on to send out and terrestrialize her ace Metagross, I was once again free to switch out Thurston, who I had set up the appropriate move for Amars' downfall with Rain Dance. With the rain now active, Asuka was able to unleash her signature move as Shot, an attack that would normally require one turn to charge whilst boosting the user's special attack stat, but thanks to Thurston's timely tango, it could be fired off immediately and absolutely annihilate Amars' ace along with her accompanying Lunatic, allowing me to promptly procure my second Elite Four victory. Amars and I make our way to the center of the battle court, where she solemnly states the strength of one's Pokemon also reflects the strength of their beliefs, commenting how my desire to aid Kieran is evidently greater than her own. I decide to not rub Natalie in the wound and attempt to cheer Amars up, to which she expressed her gratitude for my condolences. We snag a quick photo to commemorate my victory before Amars handed me a copy of her favorite TM, Hard Press, and after personally entrusting me with her desire to help Kieran, she punctually parted her way into the Terrarium's simulated sunset. Drayton decides to drop on by again and congratulates me on having taken down half of the Elite Four so swiftly. Our conversation gets cut short, however, due to the unexpected arrival of Kieran, who states he was worried that I had grown soft since our spat in Kitakami, but is thankful to see that I'm still just as strong as ever. He tells me to go all the way and not go losing to anyone, as he wouldn't be able to show me just how strong he's become if I never actually make it to him. Having said his peace of mind, Kieran casually walks on off, with Drayton departing not too soon afterwards, giving me his best wishes in facing the Academy's remaining Elite Two. My victory over Amars definitely boosted my confidence. It felt amazing to see my strategy come to life and work so wonderfully. Thurston and Asuka's domination on the battlefield gave me the inspiration to add another Weather Warrior to my entourage, so I ate a sandwich to acquire a bug-boosting boon and courageously charged into the Charged Stone Caverns to begin my hunt for the jubilantly jumping Joltik. I sent out reserves to my blade to check for which Joltik was shiny, as I was unsure if I'd be able to spot the visual difference, and after only a few hours of searching, the ardent arachnid appeared. Oh, you look kinda different. Hey, that's because you are different. Shiny Joltik. There we are. Let me go ahead and drop down the safety save. Alright, that was a pretty quick hunt. Only took like a few hours. Let me get a good look at you, little buddy. Some are a bit brighter than the others. Whoa! Kinda scared me a bit there. Alright, let's get this encounter going. Shiny Joltik. I love Joltik. I always used this little fella whenever I was playing the Unova games. Alright, went ahead and put this small spider to sleep. Let's go ahead and pop the luxury ball and hope for the best. What the heck? What the heck? The luxury ball is like halfway in the ground. What's up with that? Never seen that one before. Anyways, Shiny Joltik caught, and first one registered to the Dex. I gave Joltik the nickname Jitterbug before taking some time to change his nature and equipping him with a power lens. I then sent him out to train up on a random Solosis outbreak until he eventually evolved into Galvantula, After the outbreak had been quelled, I continued training Jitterbug until he was around the same level as the rest of my party, before starting my sprint across the savannah biome to face off against Crispin, the Capsizzle chef of the Elite Four. It may seem a tad confusing to catch a bug-type Pokemon with plans to use them against a fire-type user, but I was confident my weather warriors would waste Crispin's culinary crew. After paying the chef's commissionary BP fee, Crispin corrals me on over to his trial site, where he states how he's been waiting for a hotshot challenger like us. Crispin cautions us that his trial is no cakewalk and challenges me to whip him up an extra spicy sandwich, with the caveat being that I could only use ingredients I procured by battling, trading, and answering the food-based trivia of Crispin's other challengers in the surrounding area to do so. I swiftly stack my sandwich with my score of spicy contents and acquire Crispin's confident seal of approval, passing the Picante Chef's culinary challenge. Crispin and I beat it on over to the battle port, where he begins musing over our complicated history with Kieran, as well as Drayton's shifty scheming. The hot-headed chef gets fired up, stating that people should just do or say what they want without making things so complicated, stating how he never sweats over such details and battles simply because he wants to battle. With all that said, Crispin boldly declares that he wants to win, which is something he fully intends on doing. Crispin leads with the comedic combination of Talonflame and Rotom Oven as I wing my weather warriors, Thurston and Jitterbug onto the battlefield. Thurston Tangos set the weather in my favor as I have Jitterbug protect to bait out Crispin's clear attempt to KO my Adderpop. And as much as I'm sure that bugged him, it bugged me more when his Talonflame not only countered my cloudy coverage with sunny day, but also survived Jitterbug's Golden Thunder thanks to its Focus Sash. And because I was sure I would take Talonflame out, I had Thurston flip turn and kill the Kitsu on Rotom Oven, who retaliated by serving my surprise spider a super spicy overheat. I tossed Thurston back out to once again rally the range before flip-turning him again into Asuka, who begins cooking Crispin's crew along with Joe the Kitsu. Crispin quickly calms back the sun with Mac Border before trying and failing to use Heat Wave the following turn thanks to BS affection mechanics. Asuka takes out the mystified Mac Border shortly afterwards as Crispin decides it's time to crank up the heat and terrestrializes his teriyaki brawler, Blaziken. The rotisserie roasts Joe the Kitsu, so I send Spike Lee in to finish with Lemon Fayomi as Asuka triggers easily finishes off Crispin's remaining Pokemon. Things start to simmer down as Crispin and I catch up in the center of the battle port to discuss our heated fracasy. Crispin comments that he loves cooking and battling because both are simple to understand. He laments how the mood in the League Club isn't so simple as of late, and wistfully wishes things could simply go back to the way they used to be. Crispin cans his dreary demeanor and we snap a spicy selfie before he hands me a copy of his flavored TM Temper Flare. The colorful culinarian closes our encounter off by confessing he doesn't know how to simmer the stewing emotions within the League Club and tells us to turn up the Teredity all we want in our BB League battles before blazing on forth into the Terrarium's simulated night. Drayton slowly saunters in not too soon afterwards. He decides to ditch his usual campy congratulations and instead state how my swift succession of the Elite Four has him starting to sweat. Nonetheless, Drayton voices his appreciation for me saving the best the Elite Four has to offer for last before taking his leisurely leave. I waste no time and whisk myself over to Drayton's Winter Wonderplex, where the scheming slacker was awaiting my arrival. He waves away my BP fee and escorts me on up to his trial site, which happened to be his battle port, where Drayton detailed the terms and conditions of his dastardly trial, the Terrarium-only challenge, where I would have to face his 3 Arctic assistants using Pokemon exclusively caught within the confines of the Terrarium. This would be a massive issue if not for the fact that I've been doing this exact challenge throughout my entire playthrough, so it should come as no surprise that I definitely dispatched Drayton's Department of Disappointment, easily ending my final Elite Four trial. As Drayton and I take our positions on the Polar Plaza's battle court, he paused to comment on my fierce battling spirit, stating how this was the first time he was seeing it up close and personal. The Maverick Manipulator then mentions how he's counting on me to conquer the BB League, though that's not something he'll allow me to do without a challenge. The first of Drayton's dreadful dragons to hit the field are Flygon and Dragonite, as I send in Thurston and Spike Lee, who start off swinging by demolishing Drayton's dragon duo due to their 4x weakness to ice, before hammering away his Haxorus shortly afterwards. And it's at this particular point where I stupidly started setting up toxic spikes with Thurston. This advance of logic results in half my team being served a cold course of terrarium dirt, before I finally slapped myself out of my stupid stupor and sent in Primera and Asuka. After Asuka KO'd Kingdra and acquired one of Primare's patented decorates, Drayton decided to mirror match me by bringing out and terastallizing his ace Archelodon, inadvertently removing its type neutrality. Drayton's blithe blunder made me feel a bit better about my own incompetence, as our tempered titans aimed to take out our opponent's opposition. Asuka barely failed to kill the draconic duplicate, who mimicked my misfortune as its flash cannon fell flat of fainting Primera. Drayton's demise drew near as after Asuka sent her Sceptile on to greener pastures, Primera unleashed a creamy critical hit, heralding an end to the League Club's carefree conniver. In the wake of my victory, Drayton and I moseyed on over to the center of the battle port, where the Polar Puppeteer praised himself for making me part of the League Club, before asking if I was ready to be a full member now that I'd bested the Elite Four. My resolute response delighted Drayton as we posed for my commemorative photo before he handed me a copy for the TM Dragon Cheer. Drayton declared that we now had the sole right to challenge the League Club champion Kieran, who conveniently came cruising on in shortly afterwards. The troublesome twerp told me how disappointed he was with how long it took me to thrash the Elite Four, and that he was fervently set on settling which of us are superior once and for all, before breaking away as Drayton informed me I would need to head over to the Academy entrance to certify my championship challenge. Before blasting off to face Kieran, I took the time to grind my shiny squad up off of some event Duraludon outbreaks, as well as any unfortunate Academy attendees I came across until they all reached level 100. With my party now at the pinnacle of their power, I approached the Academy's receptionist to register for my match with Kieran, where Drayton decided to drop on by for some free battle prattling. He states how he preferred the old Kieran, the one who, although cowardly, constantly fought with genuine joy in his eyes, rather than pushing everyone to their breaking points in his pursuit of power. Nonetheless, Drayton tells me he and the Elite Four have my back and will be cheering me on as an announcement is made, heralding that my clash with Kieran was about to begin. As I marched my way over to the battle court, Kieran berated me for keeping him waiting. Students began to gather round as he then regaled me with how all his hard work was for the chance to show me what he's truly made of, stating how he had spent every waking second since his defeat in Kitakami studying battle tactics and training his Pokemon, eventually besting Blueberry Academy's Elite Four and becoming the League Club champion. Now, after all those trials and tribulations, all his hard work and effort would pay off by beating me here and now. Tensions are palpable as Kieran's Politoed and Dragonite come careening onto the field, as I send Spike Lee and Thurston in to deal with the would-be weather combo. Though it seems Kieran's karma finally catches up with him as his Dragonite is immediately incapacitated due to a first turn freeze. This allows Thurston to set up 2 layers of toxic spikes while Spike Lee started spamming agility. All the while, Kieran's Politoed pitifully attempted to thwart Thurston's setup to no avail. I iced the defenseless Dragonite before baton passing Spike Lee into Jitterbug, just to full switch him into Asuka as Thurston flip-turned Spike Lee back in, intimidating the truculent Tabby, who's then wasted by Asuka's Aura Sphere. Asuka can't quite KO Kieran's Grimmsnarl thanks to his Focus Sash. However, the poison from Thurston's Toxic Spikes seals the fairy's fate, forcing Kieran to call forth his Porygon Z, who nearly smoked Spike Lee with an absurd Helping Hands boosted Hyper Beam, which was further bolstered by its Life Orb. But BS affection mechanics make their return, resulting in Spike Lee low-kicking Kieran's Polito to the curb as Asuka fretlessly finished off Porygon Z. Now on his last leg, Kieran hurled his Hydra Ball into the fray, terastallizing the Trinity Terragon into the fighting type in attempting to secure Spike Lee's demise. But a baton passing to Primera proves that effort fruitless, and after terastallizing my Immaculate Eclair, she and Asuka annihilate the Syrupy Serpent with my Decadent Darling's Dazzling Gleam, sending the curtains crashing on Kieran's championship career. Kieran stumbles back in awe as the crowd begins to dissipate, having witnessed the once mighty BB League champion catch his karmic comeuppance, who still can't quite wrap his head around what just occurred as he falls to his knees in despair. Crispin cheerfully chimes in, congratulating us on our amazing clash, causing Lacey to lecture the clueless chef on social awareness, as Drayton dawdled on over to the despondent adolescent and decided to rub the knack in further by callously calling Kieran ex-champion. He then turned his attention towards me, awarding us a Master Ball for besting the Blueberry League, before taking the time to tell Kieran that while everyone likes winning, it shouldn't be his sole focus. But Kieran began having a manic breakdown, mumbling that he would waste me the next time we battled, as I walked over to temper the Wayward White's tantrum. The rest of the League Club casually made their way over afterwards and offered me their congratulations, but Lacey let me know my astounding achievement came with some complications. For starters, since I was an exchange student, I couldn't reliably be around Academy grounds 24/7. Furthermore, because Kieran was no longer champion, Crispin would be booted from the Elite Four so Kieran could take his place. Before we had a chance to resolve any of these issues, an announcement was made requesting that Kieran, Carmine, Drayton, and I make our way over to Miss Briar's classroom ASAP. When we arrived at Miss B's classroom, she informed us that some special guests were here to see us, before inviting us all to take a seat, which Drayton did so without a second thought. Once the rest of us had gotten settled in, the thrilled teacher told us that she had gathered us all here to go on an expedition to Area Zero, with our goals being to investigate and gather data on the terrestrial phenomena, and possibly find the legendary terapagos slumbering deep within its depths. The mention of this mighty myth caused Kieran to snap out of his stupor, as we're then greeted by our special guests, who turn out to be Gita and Rika, who are apparently unaware of my attendance, but decisively discern my role in the recent exchange program. Gita introduces herself to everyone else as chairwoman of the Paldea League, before stating how their organization once provided support for research within Area Zero, eventually shifting their duties towards monitoring the mysterious crater. But with the potential possibility of dangerous Pokemon escaping its confines and too few experienced League personnel to deal with the issue in recent times, she's reached out to Miss Briar for assistance, who was more than willing to oblige. Gita expressed her remorse for roping us into official League business, but repulsed it by acknowledging Blueberry Academy had both the better trainers and Pokemon, and with my inclusion thrown in the mix, she was confident in launching a formal expedition. Carmine courageously volunteered herself to aid in the treacherous trek, however Drayton declined the offer, stating he was needed here to help manage the League Club through these turbulent times, before baiting out Kieran's response, who wanted to join solely for the chance to catch the legendary Pokemon and avenge what occurred in Kitakami. It swiftly settled that the expedition team to voyage into Area Zero would consist of Miss Briar, Carmine, Kieran, and I, as Miss Briar elatedly expressed that her dreams were finally coming true, before telling us to meet up by the bridge at the Academy's entrance once we're ready to set off. After everyone else had departed, Gita, Rika, and I convened for some chit-chat, the latter of whom was furious that I had previously entered Area Zero without the League's permission, but Gita gently reminded her that if it weren't for me and my friend's intervention, then all of Paldea would have been put in peril. After reluctantly relenting, Rika reminded Gita that she was supposed to deliver an item to Miss Briar, but since she's not present, Gita gives that item to me, That item being the Indigodisk, the namesake of the DLC. Although it may look like an ordinary TM, Gita assures us that it isn't. Though she's unsure what its purpose is, she is sure that it came directly from Areazero. Gita asks us to take the Indigodisk and investigate its true purpose before imploring us to ensure the safety of everyone on the expedition, as she and Rika then turn to take their leave. I met up with the expedition team upon arriving at the Academy's entrance, where Miss Briar pulled us together to ask if we were all alright before heading off for Areazero. Carmine, though clearly distraught, lied through her teeth and said she was fine, whilst Kieran's mania was on full display, declaring that nothing would stop him from catching terapagos. Unable to pick up on the salient social cues of her students, Miss Briar beamingly announced we would depart for Areazero post-haste. When we arrived at Areazero, Miss Briar bolted for a nearby railing as everyone took a moment to take in the scenic splendor of their surroundings, with Kieran letting a bit of his old personality briefly slip through his facade. He then pressed me for details about my prior visit to this cryptic crater, prompting Miraidon to pop out of their Pokeball and accidentally startle everyone. Carmine clearly didn't appreciate Miraidon's sudden appearance, however Miss Briar marveled at my paradoxical Pokemon before suddenly stating they're not the reason we came to Areazero. She then pulled out her copy of the Violet book and relayed a story her ancestor Heath had written, describing how he once fell from the depths of Areazero into somewhere much deeper. Carmine comments on how much of an oxymoron that statement sounds like, with Miss Briar regretfully informing us that Heath had forgotten how he managed to accomplish this feat. Fortunately, I was able to whip up a simple solution to this irksome issue.
Here we go. Make our way down to the Zero Lab, the group pauses to briefly bask at the enclosed edifice before Kieran and Carmine question how we were supposed to get inside.
With Kieran being awestruck after describing how we need to disable the door's lock, Miss Briar asks if I could accommodate their request, seeing as I'd been through this before, but after an unsuccessful attempt at hacking the security panel, it springs to life, startling Kieran and registering the Indigodisk's close proximity, requesting its immediate insertion. After doing so, the machine confirms the disk's contents and reroutes the Zero Lab's elevators to the underdepths, opening the fastened facility in the process. Swiftly scuttling our way into the late Chiro's lab, Carmine clumsily crashed her head against the low ceiling, which gave Kieran a quick chuckle at her expense. All the while, Miss Briar was busy rummaging through Chiro's old notes. Carmine then comments on the elevator in the back of the room, and we all piled on in. On our way down, both Kieran and Carmine questioned where the elevator would be taking us now that it had been rerouted, with Miss Briar merrily replying that she was unsure, leaving the group in a stupor of silence as we descended deeper into the depths of Areazero. Emerging from the elevator, the group and I were left near speechless at the sight of the Underdepth's raw beauty, before Kieran noted the nearby research desk. Miss Briar rushed over to scour through the loose files left behind by Professor Churro, learning that terapagos is currently slumbering in the form of a crystal, and that its influence likely gave rise to Pokemon comprised of every Tera type, which Churro dubbed the Stellar type. Miss Briar paused to ponder through all this new information as Kieran keyed in to the mention of Areazero's hidden treasure, terapagos, pushing for us to venture onwards. I decided to stay back and skim through some of Chiro's notes, learning that this cavern was apparently formed 2 million years ago and stretches nearly 3,300 feet beneath the surface. My attention was then drawn in to a particular entry where Chiro detailed an encounter with a child in a faraway land he had mysteriously been transported to. I took my time, letting the serenity of the scenery settle in before rejoining the expedition team to inspect an odd obstruction blocking our path. Carmine suggested I smash through it with Miraidon, which Miss Briar was wholly objected to, previewing us to the possible danger of doing so. We're then greeted by a glittering Glimmora which was passing by, and I decided to take it on in battle, witnessing its transformation into the Stutter type before tentatively taking it out with Joe the Kitsu. Its defeat clears the crystalline comfort as Carmine contemplates if the curious creature was the hidden treasure of Areazero, catching a nasty mean look from Kieran in the process. Miss Briar quickly concludes that the Glimmora didn't fit the desired description of terapagos before the group decides to pushed forwards directly into a wall. After admiring the alluring atmosphere of the Underdepths for a bit longer, I get told by Carmine to lay out a laggy Noivern in the distance to clear the path so the group could progress. I goof around for a bit before quickly KOing the Celestialized Noivern and proceed to the next room with the expedition team, where the pattern of being mesmerized by this area's majesty, playing with my surroundings, and confronting a Celestialized Pokemon to open a path deeper into this cavern's depths play out once again. Before progressing, Miss Briar pulled me aside to apologize for making me have to do all the work, but noted that the terrestrial energy has continued to grow denser the further we delve into the underdepths of Areazero. One final barrier barred us from furthering our descent into these cryptic caverns as I was swiftly sent to sail across the tranquil tides to reach the next room as per Carmine's command, where I took out the Celestialized Garganicle guarding its crystalline centerpiece. Carmine convinced Kieran to give us the all-clear, who lamented the team's over-reliance on me upon my return before running off ahead, leaving Carmine to inform me that they've been fending off hordes of Pokemon in my absence, with only her Sinistra still standing. All our Terra Orbs began to glow as we pulled into the pit room, where Miss Briar noted the massive amount of Terra energy emanating from up ahead before beelining for the next chamber alongside Kieran. After admiring what I believed to be my final battle arena, Kieran began frantically ferreting around the room, searching for terapagos before being aimed in the right direction by Miss Briar. They both bolt for the crystal at the far side of the chamber as a crazed Kieran desperately began trying to dislodge it from its pedestal, proclaiming how he would use terapagos' power to finally claimed victory over me. Carmine couldn't fathom why her little brother was so bothered by his inability to beat me as Kieran finally snapped, letting loose all his pent-up frustration, furiously venting about how I have everything he's ever wanted, strong Pokemon and the ability to make friends wherever I go, which includes Ogerpon, who Kieran idolized for ages. Carmine tries to play peacekeeper, which backfires when Kieran lashes out at her for her sudden heel turn towards me during my time in Kitakami. Clueless to Kieran's despondent delirium, Miss Briar pushes for him to release the stagnant stone and show us the hidden treasure of Areazero. With one final pull, Kieran managed to free the crystal from its confinement as it went sailing through the air before hitting and sliding across the ground. Miss Briar cheerfully confirmed the crystal matched the desired description, while Kieran gazed at the gem in awe as it began to pull in Terra energy from the surrounding area and transformed into the now awakened terapagos. Upon the tiny turtle opening its eyes, it immediately impressioned on me, causing Kieran to panic as terapagos made a mad dash in my direction. In an act of pure desperation, Kieran hurled the Master Ball he had acquired for becoming the BB League champion, literally catching the mighty Mist by surprise. Carmine questioned if Kieran had truly caught terapagos as he firmly held his Master Ball in his hand, with Miss Briar breaking the tension by congratulating him for being so amply prepared for this type of situation. She then asked if Kieran and I could have a battle so we could witness terapagos' power in action, with Kieran being all too willing to oblige, also curious to see what his legendary leatherback could do. Kieran sent in his epic Hillorian as I led with Joe the Kitsu to test the waters, watching as terapagos underwent some transformation before attacking with Joe and learning terapagos had an ability similar to Kecleon, which changed its type to better resist my assault. With this newfound knowledge, I switched in Spike Lee to explore terapagos' newfound weakness with a switch low sweep, much to Kieran's dismay. As our battle raged on, it became obvious to Miss Briar and I that we weren't witnessing the fabled Terrapin's full potential as I sent the striking snapper back to sleep shortly afterwards. Completely crushed by his sudden defeat, Kieran, in a state of shock, stated how he thought terapagos' power would have made him strong enough to finally beat me in battle. Carmine attempted to console her hapless brother, but Miss Briar, ever ignorant to obvious social cues, reasoned that terapagos had to undergo terrestrialization in order to release its full potential. Put on the spot and desperate to defeat me, Kieran quickly terrestrialized terapagos, unwittingly unleashing the little loggerhead's unstable power. As Miss Briar stood satisfied seeing terapagos in its awakened state, confirming the Velvet Book's contents, it suddenly released a large burst of Terra energy which nearly struck down Kieran in an instant. But my Miraidon managed to save him in just the nick of time. Carmine could see the situation was swiftly spiraling out of control and begged Kieran to return Terapagos to its Master Ball, but upon attempting to do so, Terapagos proved to be far too powerful and promptly destroyed its puny prison, leaving us no other option but to battle the terastallized terror. Carmine and I take charge of the situation by sending in our leads, both Sinistra and Joe the Kitsu, as Carmine pleaded for her brother's aid, who was currently grappling with the weight of what he had done. Terapagos starts the battle off by putting up a barrier, which Miss Brewer let us know could be broken by terastallizing my Pokemon, as I started chipping away at its massive health bar by switching between Joe and Spike Lee, debilitating Terapagos' stats in the process. Miss Brewer revealed our opportunity to strike back at the striking snapper, with Spike Lee having the honor of terastallizing and destroying Terapagos' defense with a lively low sweep. In response, Terapagos absorbed our terrestrial energy, reverting Spike Lee to normal before taking out Carmine Sinistro with a hearty 10 headbutt and setting up another barrier, leaving me to fight the fabled Terrapin all on my own. Carmine attempted to enlist Kieran's aid again to absolutely no avail, as Jitterbug joined the fray to whittle down Terapagos' health bar, culminating in Jitterbug terastallizing and shattering the second shield of Struggle Bug. In response, Terapagos sapped my terrestrial energy and set up another barrier before I decided to deliver some words of encouragement to Kieran, causing him to roar into action and send in his Hydra Bolt. I tossed Thurston in to set up Rain Dance, followed by a steadfast light screen from Primera, paving the way for Asuka to come in swinging with her signature move, Electro Shot. The time comes to terastallize my MVP and annihilate Terapagos' third charge, leaving the legendary Loggerhead defenseless as Kieran and I immediately took advantage of our opportunity, obliterating the remainder of its health bar with a critical Electro Shot. Our fearsome fracas seemed to tucker Terapagos out as it reverted back to its original form, with Kieran coming to the conclusion that it was now possible to capture the epic Colonian. He graciously gave me the all-clear as I let loose a luxury ball, bringing an end to Terapagos' terastallized tantrum. Carmine came over to check if the deed was truly done this time, as Miss Brewer began apologizing for her overwhelming obsession, nearly putting us all in an early grave, which Carmine callously called her out for. Kieran chimed in to express his remorse for his jeopardous actions as of late, lamenting about how he desperately attempted to emulate my might before bursting into tears, having decided to discard his resentment towards me. Carmine joins in the tear fest upon seeing her brother's true colors shine for the first time since their trip to Kitakami, as we all depart for our return to Blueberry Academy. Carmine took some time to stretch herself out upon arriving at the academy, relieved to finally be back home, as Miss Brewer began to ponder what publisher she would regale her tale to. Whilst they wander ahead, Kieran comes clean to me about all the trouble he's caused for the League Club and his fellow students, wishing to give them all a proper apology. He begins his road to redemption by begging for my forgiveness before asking if I was willing to give our friendship another shot, starting from the outset. I give Kieran a nod of approval as Carmine called us out for lagging behind, teasing us to pick up our pace. Kieran and I shoot each other a smile before bolting across the bridge to catch up with our crew as the sun shined brightly upon our new horizons. Thank you all so much for watching. It would really mean the world to me if you left a like and comment on this video, as this took multiple months to produce. Tell me your favorite part of my journey, or just about the journey you had whilst playing through this DLC. Please subscribe if you'd like to see more content like this from me, and with that, I hope to see all of you again later. Goodbye.